Okay, shalom everyone. We don't have much time. It's just about a half an hour before Shabbos, but I wanted to get a little bit more recorded about this wonderful speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that he talked about the four different types of vegetation that we use for the commandment of Lulov and Etrog. And the Rebbe explained that according to the Midrash, there's a Midrash that says that these four different types represent four different types of Jews. There's the Lulav is the highest of all, and that represents Jews that their main thing is learning Torah. Then there's Jews that are like the Etrog, very beautiful. They have Torah and also commandments, but sort of equally. Their main thing is to be well-rounded. Then there's Jews that their main thing is to do just the commandments. Those are Jews that are something like the Hadas, that the Hadas has a smell, to smell to it, and the smell is compared to the commandments for different reasons that the Rebbe gave. And then there are Jews like the Arava, and the Arava have nothing. They don't have any smell, they don't have any taste. So let's have a look. According to this, it says, but the main one is those Jews who learn the Torah. That's the main thing, because the Torah is the main unity of the Jewish people with God and with each other through the Torah. And that's this whole idea of the four different types, is taking all these different types of Jews and unifying them. The idea of unity, the whole holiday of Sukkot is unity, and especially in the Lulav and Etrog, which stresses that each type is different. The differences between them is very important, and not negating the differences between them. Okay, according to this, we can also understand why the Lulav we find a bezundra inyan, a special thing, which is not in the under meaning in the other types. They're Indian from nanuim, namely the thing of shaking. The whole thing of the lulav is that it shakes. You can see it shake. Now, as we said, that the lulav that signifies the Jews that their main thing is Torah. The lulav is the highest of all the other four types, and you can see it sticks, but it moves, it shakes back and forth. Hagam, even though that the Lach and Lavoa has into the six different directions, is by all the four types, the lulav and the etrog and the hadas and the arava, all the four types you have to put together. Very number the nanuim, but this thing of the shaking, the tracing, the moving back and forth, prophet nor mit lulav, only with the lulav. There was a special commandment to take the lulav also, and that the lulav was the one you can see shake. But according to the custom of the rabbis, that noch yeder holacha fragt ze geben a tresel dem lulav. It says that after each time they would move the lulav forward, they would shake. Some people say they would, every time you would move to the east, to the west, you'd shake the thing a little bit, shake the lulav. When irsh noch them, and only after that, they would do the going and coming back. In fact, that's the main thing of the commandment, is just to hold on to it and shake it. The easiest commandment of all. Just hold the lulav and esrog, and the lulav and the etrog and the hadas, the four different types, and just shake. When oiva zoifil, it's so important, the thing of shaking back and forth with the lulav, that for this, the lulav has a special measurement. It has to be higher than all the others. It has to be what's called 4 hand breaths. 1 hand breath more than the others, so that you can see it shaking. The soul, as it is above, is called standing. The soul. We're saying these 4 different types represent the Jewish soul. A soul, before it comes into the body, it's called standing. General, the soul stay in the same level all the time, because all this idea of the soul's raising up to higher levels, etc. This is in an orderly fashion, so to speak. It's and according to nature. The nature of the spiritual world is that everything raises gradually. So the soul is called standing, but it's like standing in an elevator. You go up. Und durch dem, but means this, that the soul comes down into the body, into the physical body. Und tut avoda, and it does the service of doing Torah and commandments. So it comes to an elevation which is incomparably greater than what it was previously. It like jumps from level to level, moves. Was does is And mitis, this is the whole idea of walking. Right? Your left foot, your one foot goes ahead, and it completely leaves the other where you were. It leaves it. You're walking. In the heavens, it's like your feet are together. It's like you're standing. That's why in Shemot Esrei you stand. It's like the angels. But when a soul comes into the body, it becomes walking. And this way of walking, which is an incomparable, unlimited, which the soul reaches by means of the service of serving God in this physical world, where there's all these obstacles and you have to use the power of defiance and awaken the inner powers of your soul. This is expressed especially in the Jews this is symbolized by the Jews shaking, right, when they pray. When the Jewish people pray, they move back and forth. Like it says in the Zohar that the reason the Jewish people, when they move back and forth, is also when they pray and when they learn the Torah, is because the soul is like a flame. Ner Hashem nishmas adam. The soul of man is like a flame. The soul is compared to a flame, to a candle, a lamp. Punkt via ner, just like a flame from a candle, shakalt sich, it moves back and forth. Because what it always wants to leave it's where it's attached to and go back up to its source. But fire is interesting because it always goes up, it defies gravity. So fire, it always goes, but it's held down. So therefore it shackles, it moves back and forth. Also, the same thing, the soul at the time when a person learns the Torah, because this indicates that by means of learning Torah, the soul is longing to be attached to the source of the Torah, the giver of the Torah. And just like the Torah that we learn, you learn Torah with understanding and grasping, and in order, klar zu far ander kleben an inyan in Torah, in order to clarify an idea in the Torah, darf men fartifen, you have to deep your mind and think deeply into the ideas that you're reading in the Talmud or whatever to understand. But these ideas come from God. These are holy ideas, even though they might deal with mundane things. I mean, the world also comes from God. But the Torah makes us realize the godliness that's in every single thing in the world. And that awakens the soul. The soul wants the source of godliness. The soul wants to go back up to its source, but it's held down in the world. God wants it to be in the world. But it wants it to be in the world in order that it should yearn to be connected to its source. When it learns Torah, so that awakens this yearning. This is the opposite. I'm sorry. By understanding, that's the opposite of shaking back and forth. But nevertheless, right, you have to be settled. You have to, in order to understand something. But nevertheless, there's the ninua, when a person learns the Torah, he shakes back and forth. Why? Because this indicates that also in the Torah is angitan, is enclosed, even though the Torah is in understanding. So you might think it's like a library. You ever go to a library? Everything is silent. Nobody moves back and forth. Nobody's shaking. You read a book by whatever it is, an encyclopedia. Everybody's quiet, right? It should be the same thing with the Torah. When you learn the Torah, it's deep understanding, many, many ideas. So everything should be quiet. This is not so, because the Torah is the wisdom of God. And also in the time when a Jew, when an Id is farnuman, when a Jew is occupied in trying to understand the Torah, and therefore it is recognizable, it's noticeable in him. The peninius, therefore, the inside of what the ideas that he's learning is because he wants to be clinging to God. So therefore, it's like a candle, like a candle surges up to its source. The fire surges up to its source, but it's connected below. When the Madriga, this idea of that's called walking without any limit, this comes by means of clinging to God. Was is their emissaries, because God is truly unlimited. But because the true idea of clinging to God is through learning Torah, like we said before. That's why we make the blessing on the Lulov and not on the other three types. Is their ikr. So therefore, the main thing of being able to move unlimited in this world is through learning the Torah. Therefore, the shaking is relevant to the Torah, and that shaking is relevant to the Lulov. The Lulov shows on the same thing. When Ate Deveka is the same connection with the Torah, clinging to God, the source of the Torah, is also true in the commandments. Like by means of shaking back and forth, of Lulav doing this commandment, of shaking back and forth. So this also shakes all the other types of the hadas and the arava and the other things. So it ends up shaking the whole entire, all the other commandments which you do, the other ingredients for this commandment of lulav and esrog, it comes from the lulav. The lulav is the thing of learning Torah, and learning Torah constantly reminds us of our connection to the Creator, as we'll talk about more, God willing, after Shabbos. Have a good Shabbat, have a good week, have a happy holiday, and God willing, we'll continue this later. With Moshiach now.